So for all our viewers on the phone and on the Zoom, good evening to everybody and a good evening and a very warm welcome to all our guests. We have with us our esteemed panel, Karthik Kini from Waterfield Advisors, Abhishek Chandra from IFL Wealth Management, and Abhin Khare from Bajaj Capital. Just quickly introducing myself, my name is Shrikant Tiwari and I represent Verify. So once again, a very warm welcome. We've got a very interesting topic today for our audience, and we've got an amazing panelists who come from very diversified areas and expertise. The topic is Leap in Wealth Management for 2030. This 2020 has been an exciting year for all of us. We have seen what we did not see in many years and a decade. And 2030 is going to be really exciting from all angles. Today, we talk about what does 2020 hold for us in terms of wealth management. So before I do that, and I set the context of the topic, let me quickly introduce my guest, which I just named, Karthik. Karthik comes from Waterfield Advisor. He is the COO for Waterfield and has an experience of 24 years in the industry. I call him a career, technology, and transformational private banker. And we've got Abhishek. Abhishek brings in with him experience of both the global companies and local powerhouses. He is in the forefront of transforming IFL, which is the largest wealth manager, and has successfully implemented some of the amazing products which this country has seen as in terms of wealth management. And Abhin comes from a very diversified field and really brings the consumer as the forefront in the Bajaj Capital. He belongs to Bajaj Capital, which is a very old horse and a powerhouse when it comes to foot and a ground force in the wealth management. And at this point, he's looking at transforming Bajaj Capital from a digital perspective. So welcome all of you and welcome my audience. We'll have a next 1 hour. Just a small do's and don'ts. We would request all of you to put yourself on mute. You can push your question answers through the chat, or you can just raise your hand and send it to Hemal. You can also directly email your questions to hemal@valify.com. You can see the email ID right in front of your screens right now. Some of the audience have sent our questions. We'll take them towards the last. A quick update on the next 55 minutes. We'll have a very interesting conversation with our panelists for the next 30 to 40 minutes. And then some of the interesting questions which is being posed by our audience, we will take it up in a quick view after the discussion is over. So with that, let us start and let us begin. 2020 has been an interesting year, but 2030 is going to be really interesting from wealth management. We've seen that in terms of last 10 years, it's been a great trend which has emerged in this industry. Trading, which has been completely democratized. Hemal, if you can put yourself on mute. The trading, which was done very physically and was really not mobile, has been completely democratized in the last 10 years or 15 years. We've seen the big data, which was just a talking points 10 years ago, is become a reality and are really getting used in the way our consumer behavior or in the way any service is delivered to the customer. In the same way, we see that the 2030 is going to be a very interesting year for wealth managers. There are lots of disruptive ideas on the table. There are talks about in 2030, there could be a way where the wealth management is delivered without advisors, or there could be a way where the advisors will completely detach from the advice and wealth management as a service will be consumed over super apps and platforms. Or there are also point of view where a lot of people say that advisors will become really life and financial coaches. So there are disruptive ideas and there are lots of things, and we see that a lot of those things will come into play. So here I welcome my panelists, and I would request they participate in this webinar in a full strength. So I begin with this. I have a few questions which I'll be asking and will be rotating up across the floor to get different point of view. So let me start with Karthik. Karthik, you come from a highly niche advisor business. Waterfield has created a name for itself in the last few years and now is the largest multi-family office advisor organization in the country. I want to know your views about the advisor. What do you think 2030 and the run toward 2020 will bring for the advisor? What is the change you see in the advisor per se? Karthik, over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Shrikant, for inviting us for this wonderful panel. So it's been my first panel, so I'm really excited. I am tensed up about it. Okay. So the role of an advisor is going to like move more from the investment side, which is becoming more of a commodity, to focus on the non-investment side. What we've seen over the last 6 months during this pandemic has been clients are focusing more on the non-investment side, be it on their philanthropic interest, be it on the succession planning, be it educating the next generation, or be it like preparing a family constitution, which means what are the roles and responsibilities of all the family members, how are like disputes resolved in family. So a lot of work has started on the non-investment side for many of our clients. Today, like we spend only about 10 to 20% of the time for clients on the non-investment side. Over the next 5 to 6 years, I think uh, this is going to be a larger part of our engagement with clients. In good old Bollywood terms, I would call it as the wealth manager will be the Munimji to the clients, where he's going to manage all the affairs besides the investments. Okay, so I would like to share some of the interesting assignments which we are running, okay, which doesn't focus purely on the investment side, okay, which cannot be replaced by robots or big tech or whatever you call it. So the role of advisors will continue to remain very relevant to the clients. So one is one of our clients who's relocating from Hong Kong to India, and he is basically joining as a CEO of a large potential next unicorn in the country. So we are working with him to structure his compensation as well as ESOPs. The next is basically we are working with the client to set up like his family office. He just got a liquidity of 1,000 crores. So we are helping him set up his family office, and it's a 2-year engagement for us. The third very interesting, very sensitive matter is a client, like we've got a special child who wants to work with us on how to like basically make sure that her child is well taken care of, okay, post the demise of the parents. So the role of the wealth manager will move from basically from just focusing on investments to the non-investment side. Okay, the other area which I feel like is going to be very dominant is women wealth managers. Today, like basically, I'm very fortunate to work with a wealth management company which is founded and run by Soumya Rajan. Okay, and I think she's the only woman founder of a wealth management company. Today, 50% of all the leadership team is comprised of women. 40% of all the assets of the company are managed by women, and we've got 3 colleagues of mine who are in the top 100 top 100 finance professionals in the country. Okay, so women as well as focusing on the non-investment side would be, I think, the big change over the next like 5 to 10 years.
Great. I think I certainly buy a point. Women have been a great home manager. Why not wealth managers? I
Yeah.
certainly buy that. And with Waterfield success and Soumya success, wealth managers are going to be women, and women is going to be in mainstream. I completely buy that. So great. Non-investment and women in the mainstream of wealth management business. Great point of view. Now let us just go at some of the hottest part of this 2030 shift, which everybody knows and everybody is thinking in the back of their mind, which is the technology. And this technology can mean many things. Abhishek, I would want to know your views. You have seen both worlds, the global world and the local world when it comes to wealth management. What do you think technology will be shifting? What are the key trends technology will have when it comes to wealth management 2030? Abhishek, over to you.
I feel thanks, Shrikant, and I feel it's exciting to be here discussing with all of us such a hot debated topic, right? And it gets discussed at all levels, whether it's the CIOs discussing, whether it's head of businesses discussing, CEOs discussing, and everyone has different point of view. But I feel one common point which everyone agrees on, that technology is the way to go. Tomorrow, if anyone is going to be spending money, it's at technology. I feel you would have recently heard about Nirmal Jain, our co-chairman, and who was the founder of IIFL, saying that there's a heavy investment which IIFL is doing across all its business verticals in technology and digital. So I mean, looking at this, there are three key areas where the technology is going to be making a big difference. One is in hyper personalization. That's where it's gone are the days where only HNIs or ultra HNIs could receive personalized products. I feel hyper personalization is the one which is going to happen, and it's not going to be happening only of products at a particular segment, but it is going to be across the spectrum. So even a mass affluent customer may also want to look at a hyper personalized product for himself. The second is the cost of management. That's which is getting severely pushed across all the verticals. Advisors are going to be challenged on cost. Everyone wants to manage their cost much better, whether it's on the operational side, whether it's on the advisor side. So both these cases, the cost needs to be managed better, and technology is going to play a great role. And third is, I feel, aggregation and accumulation of data, which is only growing size by size given the current scenario. And this is going to go only heaps and bounds, and where technology is going to play a great role with AI and ML coming in place.
Great. So I picked up some really interesting points from your conversation. Data aggregation and aggregation of information is going to be the key. Personalization, which we have started talking about in many industries, is going to become hyper personalized, and the cost of management, because there is a lot of cost pressure from all angles, will be a key driver, and that will be handled with the help of technology. Great insights. Now, let me just change the focus to something which is most important in this business: consumer. We all know consumer is shifting very quickly. We believe it or not, the consumer is shifting. We've got baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, and whatnot. So I've got Abhin here, and Abhin comes from travel industry. He's been part of e-commerce, and he really lives in the heart of the consumer. Abhin, I would want to focus the attention on consumer, which is the key part of wealth management industry. What do you think, and how do you envisage consumer behavior changing this decade while we go and toward 2030? The key trends, the key themes you pick up from a consumer point of view. Over to you, Abhin.
Yeah, thanks, Shrikant, and thanks for inviting on this panel and this eclectic mix. Probably much needed to talk about this, because once we start the conversation, we start thinking on those directions. Now, very interesting question when you put what is going to happen with consumers. Consumers are shifting. You know, consumers have already shifted. They don't think they are shifting behaviors. They are changing their behavior. They have already changed it. What is happening is their expectations from the so-called wealth managers is changing like a J curve. And for understanding who are these consumers, we have to see that India is actually not India, it's a continent. And you can divide India into 4 different kinds of country. You know, India 1, India 2, India 3, India 4, what we also like to call Bharat 4, right? The top player is all wealth managers talk about, the 100 million, you know, the salad generation, the avocado, the Subway, the cred users, right? This is what we all chase. But there is a vast amount of wealth sitting out there who are looking for that experience. You know, cities where Google and Facebook want to get inside, right? The tier 2 and 3 towns. They are expecting to be, you know, serviced like we have serviced a super HNI. And they are looking for those solutions. And these are sharp people. They know how to make wealth. Now, wealth managers, because of what Abhishek said very nicely, the technology, they need 3 kinds of demand. The number 1, they will say, what will the technology do for me? Very simply. Second thing, they will say, with technology, how are you going to manage me? So they are not going to say, send me a letter of my copy, right? A copy of my letter of my policy. They will say, WhatsApp me, not even email. So the curve of moving on technology is going to go very fast. And that's the challenge and exciting part for us, where consumers have already changed. We will now play the catch-up game, right? So that's where I see the change happening.
Great. So I really want to pick up that point, what you say and what you started with. Consumers have changed, and in a way, you are kind of giving a direction in a looking good way that wealth managers are not changed that fast, and the consumers are changing pretty fast. So they've already changed, and the curve is getting steeper and steeper. On that note, I want to bring all three of you into this debate, and this is pretty prevalent all across the board. There are many industries which are shifting, and consumer behavior is changing. The driverless car. I mean, when I was just starting my career, probably just started my career 2010. Uh, we were reading about driverless car. We were reading about technology which can really impact the whole transportation by making it driverless. But sitting in 2020, when there are experiments going on in Dubai, wherein the taxis are flying from airport directly to hotels and whatnot, and the way logistics and transport industry is changed, driverless car is not anymore a distant dream or something which we only can watch in sci-fi movies. It could be a reality, and I think most of the crowd, most of the audience here would see in 2030 there will be driverless car. Now, I want to put through to all three of you in this wealth management industry. There are two parts, advisor and client. Do you think 2030 there could be a driverless or a wealth manager-less or a relationship manager-less wealth management? Would that be a mainstream industry? Do you think that would be just in pockets? What do you think? We'll start with Abin and we'll go to Abhishek and then Karthik on this one.
Okay, so I think Ubers of the world make sense when you are, driverless car makes sense when you have a point A and point B. So you start from point A and reach point B. The game with wealth management is there is no point B because it is endless. You want, if somebody is making 20% every year, you would say, I need to make 30%. If somebody can give you 30%, you will go for 40%. And the greed cycle continues. So what you will see is a lot of things which can be automated will get automated. But there will be, as Karthik earlier said, there will be huge demand for people whom I can trust. And trust, but verified with technology. So that I see driverless car or advisor-less wealth management. I don't see happening there. It might be in the way of AI, what you are trying, but people will soon figure out this is what it is giving. And in greed and in world of making more money, that's where we all peg each other. We making more money than the others, right? That is not going to happen. That's for me.
Great. So you think the trust is paramount because it's money. Just like I would not take a flight if somebody tells me that the cockpit doesn't have a pilot. It's without pilot. It doesn't matter how cheap that is. So trust is paramount. It's about the money. What's your view, Abhishek?
To add on, just one. You are only one accident away from never using an Uber car, driverless car, right? And just one loss away from never going to a automated advisor.
Amazing point of view. Great. Abhishek, would you want to support it? Your business depends on advisor. Would you want to support it, or you have a middle way somewhere?
No, I feel what Abhin is saying is a very, very valid point. We strongly believe that this next generation or the next few years is going to be not driverless. It's going to be lot enabled and supported through the advisor, but the advisor role is going to be changing a lot. He needs to substantiate, as Abhin was rightly highlighting, with a lot of facts and data. The advice cannot be said, I believe you should invest in this mutual fund, you should invest in this product. No client today is going to take that as on your face value, right? Even the second part where we used to like to share with you, right? I mean, a lot of time wealth managers say, sir, I'm co-invested in this product. Even that is going to lose stand slowly. He wants a lot of data, a lot of information, a lot of justification in writing, explaining on why you believe your advice should be such. And that's where AI and ML engines are going to play a lot of important role. It is also going to help. It is also going to be important on how the internal research tank of big wealth organizations are able to disseminate this information to the advisor and at what pace. So what I mean is that there's a team which is researching, coming out with advice. How does this advice reach to the advisor and then to the client in the fastest possible manner? Explaining all the rationales in place is going to play a very important role to time the market from an execution perspective. So that's one. I will second another key point which Ben was making, which is very important. Customers have changed, which is very, very right. I feel the pace at which customers are adopting the new technology is much faster than what all of us sitting as wealth managers have believed. We have believed that they are slow, they are not interested in adopting to technology. It's actually completely reverse. They are far more keener, far more easier to adopt, and far more wanting to have a control of their portfolio completely in place. Third, I believe also which is of hyper personalization, which becomes important today, even smaller things. So when we started going to tier 2, tier 3 cities, and as high-end wealth managers, right, where we have always believed that we would cater to HNIs and ultra HNIs, when you go to tier 2, tier 3 city, you have to change your mindset. You have to adapt to their thought process. You can't be wearing that regular big stylish blazer and walking to an office and discussing it. The whole requirement, the whole planning of wealth is very, very different in these cities, and they have a lot of time. They have a lot more information at times available at their hand than what you would believe.
Great, Abhishek. I think the people like yourself, Abhin and Karthik, was sitting at the forefront of transformation when they talk about putting consumer and technology trends and using them to advantages like hyper personalization, really getting closer to the customer or making the entire stack technology, usable. It sounds music to me as a consumer. But I would want to see, before I put my next question, which could be a little more difficult than this, let's just understand Karthik's point of view on the same. Karthik, over to you.
As Shrikant, I said that basically because the focus is more on the non-investment side, the role of the wealth manager will be more of a Munimji that cannot be replaced by any technology. You talk of big data, you talk of AI, but in the end, if the guy is going through a separation, no machine can solve the problem. Okay, so you need a human intervention, and that cannot be replaced. Okay, technology will just be the enabler, but instead of managing 10 clients, with technology, I'll be able to manage 25 clients. Okay, so according to me, there's always going to be human intervention which should be required.
Great. I mean, that's a great point of view. For all of us, we are humans, and we would want humans to continue and get better and better. Now, with that, while driverless car was a distant future and still can be a lot of speculation, but what we see right now happening in banking industry, what's happening with platforms, all kind of platforms globally, likes of Facebook, Google, WhatsApp in India, Paytm and, Ola, why not UPI? All of them are getting closer and closer to the consumer. Some people have taken a shallow dip into the waters of wealth management as well. And globally, we see wealth management, is a key area or is a very keen interest for all these people and all these platforms of what we call them FANG globally, or, India Stack or India Digital platforms in India. They're getting closer to the consumer. They're able to reach to the consumer's eyes far more faster. Do you think the trend which has started, which is they've taken the dip, they are in the shallow waters of wealth management, they will become core key players when it comes to wealth management? We can take any order on this one. Abhishek, would you want to go first on this one?
Abhishek, you're on mute.
Abhishek, Abhin.
Abhishek, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah. No, I was saying that there are two things which are happening here. One, overall, over last decade, I would say or so, there's a fundamental shift which has happened primarily in the Indian industry or in the Indian psyche, I would say. To a phase where investments were sold to now investments being bought. And maybe it's these small ads like mutual fund sahi hai or various other things, right, which have gone. But that whole philosophy has changed, and that's changed across the startup. So that itself is actually helping not only the smaller retailish players, but even all the segments, right, that on who should be investing into the market, who should be looking at wealth management in a very different manner. So that's one point which I want to share. The second is from a global perspective. If you look at it, right? I mean, globally, we have known that globally we have seen people have become more and more comfortable to pay for advice. They've started valuing that as it's right to go ahead and pay directly to the advisor and pay for advice, rather than advice not being paid for and being subsumed under a selling process. And that's essentially also what is also changing in case of India, both through regulations and through frameworks, and also all the wealth managers consciously recognizing it. So that's an important point, saying that advice would also now not continue to be coming free. Advice will start getting charged, and advice will start getting charged across all segments.
Great. Advice is getting valuable. Regulators are pushing it, and wealth managers will advise better with technology, and we all will pay for it for sure. So, Abid, over to you. What do you think? Do you see it differently?
See, I see it that in 10 years, when you say they are going to be a serious competition with FANG trying to go for every bit of pie. But when you see 15 years, it will change. Because what will happen is people will start seeing that these are the services which I keep, looking for advice continuously. It's not one single transaction that I am okay with. Also understand how FANG works. We in our set of Cocoon, we tend to think that they will come after our business. That's not how it happens. It's an unbundling. When FANG tried to go for media, they never went to start their own Times of India. They actually said any content that is reaching to the customer, they should stop going to Times of India but come to us, and here they can consume all the content available which is shared by people they follow or like. Same is with Twitter or what happens. So they will try, FANG will try to get into domains where they will say we own the customer, and those are the things which are happening, like the credit card sales happening with Amazon. When it comes to wealth management, the advice part, number one, they wait for the market to expand. The market has to be big enough to make a lot of impact, because it's a scale and it's a winner stands alone market. If they want to play, we are very happy. There is IIFL, there is Bajaj Capital, there are Waterfield, there is multiple others. We are happy in our own ecosystem. We get more customers. We are deeply penetrated. We are a T model. We build relationship, and we are relationship miners. They are hunters, right? So when FANG comes after, they will come hunting for every customer. So they will expand the market. So very simply put, if you see what happened to Netflix in India because of Jio, we will see the same thing happening to insurance because of COVID. And the beauty is, with country like India, regulations will start evolving to help this whole ecosystem with sandbox, which Abhishek was telling, right? You will have variables connecting with your insurance plan and telling that, this is the less premium you need to pay, which is already happening, right? But people will start adopting. So it's always going to be the timing. All ideas are great ideas, but the timing has to be right. I believe in 10 years that timing will reach, and we will see a significant competition coming there.
So I will pick up two things from what you said.
Yeah.
There is going to be a fierce competition, but it's going to be for good, because the market will, expand to a really large size, which will be fairly big for everybody to sustain and have their own key competitive advantage. And definitely, finally, then there are companies like Valuefy who are available to disrupt those disruptors back. So with that, I would just want to ask a question to Karthik. He's been in the industry for a very long time. I know he watches the trends on the industry very closely. Karthik, what do you think with all this going on? We've seen a lot of interesting trends in India specifically, where the global wealth managers are not able to really, establish themselves the way they have done in some of the other emerging markets globally. What do you think the key trends will be when it comes to consolidation, downward, upward? What is your take on that?
Okay, interesting question, Srikanth. So I was just looking at the Amphi data. So Amphi comes up with the annual disclosure on its website where it's listed on all the distributors where they pay commissions to. Okay, so this year the list is only about 850 players are there. The same time last year it was about 1200. So there are 350 distributors who either closed down their business or consolidated their businesses with other firms. There's this list which Asian Private Banker puts up. Okay, it lists down like 20. There are only 20 wealth managers in the country today which manage more than $1 billion. Okay, all the firms which have started in the last 5 to 10 years. Okay, basically most of them have yet to see the light of the day. They're still burning a lot of capital. So in India, one of the biggest problems is that people have got to constantly innovate. Okay, they've got to attract talents. They've got to be differentiated with what is happening. So because this wealth management business has become so commoditized, okay, people are not able to scale their businesses. Also, you invest in the business for a couple of years and then basically you run out of capital. Over the last 3 years, we've got UBS, the largest wealth manager in the world. It closed the shop. Recently, BNP decided that it cannot run its wealth business in India. So I've worked with Deutsche Bank, which is merging its retail banking and wealth management businesses. Okay, 2 years back, HSBC did the same thing. So there's obviously going to be consolidation in the industry. Abhishek's firm recently, basically acquired last couple of years. They've been on the lookout. They've got over L&T Finance and Wealth Advisors. Okay, as far as I know, out of the top 20 firms, there are 3 firms, okay, who appointed investment bankers for stake sale because they're finding it extremely difficult to run their businesses. So consolidation is going to happen. Where I see is basically there are going to be 3 models. One is a bank-led wealth firm, which is basically like the Kotaks of the world. The other is a non-bank-led wealth management firm like IIFL. And the third would be I would put Waterfield, a pure play advisory firm with no conflict of interest business model. So that's where I see the industry shaping up.
Great points, Karthik. Now, I'm getting a very interesting questions from the audience as we speak. And before I ask my colleague Hemal to take this question, one of the questions which I would want to ask, and this puzzles me a lot, being somewhere associated with financial industry, I've seen in India, the financial products, when it comes to products, there we still see not catching up the global trend. We see many forms and shapes of mutual funds is so difficult for to understand for a common man. All kind of thematics and hybrid and balance and dynamic mutual funds. What do you think? The products are going to get simplified? Are we going to move to something like what developed markets are moving, simple ETF products, or everything going to be managed by the passive products? Or do you think India is going to remain an active market? Karthik.
So actually, we've just done some analysis. It's better, it's very difficult for fund managers to beat the indices. Okay, historically, and over this last couple of years, okay, when we look at client portfolios, most of the fund managers have underperformed the indices. Okay, and the underperformance has been very stark. Okay, so you pay a 2% management fee, be it a mutual fund or a PMS, and it's more economical to look at ETFs. Okay, so mutual fund managers and the PMS managers have to work extremely hard, okay, to get the alpha on their portfolios. Okay, things are not looking great. Okay, the regulators are becoming tougher day by day. Okay, the wealth firms as well as the cost of compliance is going to significantly increase. Okay, I have not seen any client portfolios beating the benchmarks by over 3 to 4% over the last couple of years. So things are, the wealth managers have really got to do a great job in getting alpha on the client's portfolio.
So you're saying a very smart thing. It's the wealth managers who are going to get alpha to you, not the fund managers. A very interesting point of view.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, of course, asset allocation and selection has been a primary to wealth creation, and that job lies with wealth managers more than asset managers. Great. Anything you would want to add on that, Abhishek? Simplification of products, they're going to remain the same. Some new things going to happen.
So I think two, as rightly said by Karthik, one is that yes, active products are going to continue. It won't be just possible to exist in the market through ETFs and through passive products. So And I feel that's where the differentiation also we as wealth managers will be able to bring in. Rightly said, saying that it's a mix of the two on how you construct the portfolio, how do you follow and adhere to the guidelines of an investment policy statement, how do you balance the portfolio out, are all going to be very meaningful methods and methodologies which need to continue. It can't be random saying, okay, I want to make 80% return. I mean, that's something which never happens, right? Or 18% return also at times is becoming difficult to achieve in these days. So a methodical approach to asset allocation is something which is going to sustain. Would also require to have very active and passive both funds to be part of the portfolio in a way to ensure that the returns continue and at least we are able to be close to be able to beat the inflation rate if possible. I mean, I believe that's going to be sometimes becoming a minimum target for a wealth manager to continue and mean.
Great, sounds good. Now, before, just for my audience, we have got a poll in progress. It must be popping on your screens. I would really request that each one of you participate in the poll. We look forward to publish that poll with your mandate and the mandate of our panelists. Now, in the interest of time, Hebel, I would request that we've got some really interesting questions coming up from our audience. Can you just share some of the questions to the panelists and they can look forward to answer them?
Sure.
Hebel, over to you.
Thank you, Shrikant. Thank you, panelists. I think so far the webinar has been really informative. One of the questions that I have received from the audience is, will wealth management be more than selling investment products to consumers in 2030, or that approach will change? Abhishek, I think you can take up this question.
I think in 2030, I don't feel robo-advisors is the only way to look at. But as being said, it's going to be a very hyper-personalized, lot assisted area of wealth management where there's going to be a lot of assistance being provided by a wealth manager, but also a lot of reliance by the customer, not only on the advisor, but also on various other factors and information which is available. And the second important part is that the scope, and as Shrikant rightly started, maybe it's the time by which the wealth manager will be actually more like a life coach. He's not just talking about wealth. He's actually guiding you through the transition from wealth management to wealth planning, which a lot of wealth managers today do it, but are only meant for very high-end clients. Wealth planning or inheritance planning or succession planning, which is something which is only meant for very high-end clients today, maybe another item which may be tomorrow available for everyone as a part of wealth management.
Thank you, Abhishek. Karthik, we've received a very specific question for you. Since wealth management is highly consultative and client focused, what do you think? How does your tech interventions provide for that?
Okay, again, so out of the 24 years of my work experience, the last 6 months have been, I've never worked so hard in my life. Okay. So we've spent so I'll tell you basically historically for most wealth firms, the salary and the occupancy cost, okay, are the key drivers of cost. This year at Waterfield, after salary, the biggest spend is on technology, and that spend on technology is 50% more than the occupancy which we are going to incur this year. And I'm not talking of we giving up offices, our offices continue to be as they are. Okay, so I would talk about our technology implementation over the last 6 months. Okay, thanks to Shrikant and Valuefy, the first 2 months of this year has been sleepless nights. Both the teams, we've not slept for more than 3 to 4 hours every day. So what we've done with Valuefy is we've got a very good front end, middle office, and a back end technology, a very consolidated solution, which has made life extremely simple for us. So if there's any event, say a temperature event, or a multi-cap change in the regulation, okay, we are quickly able to come up with relevant data for our RMs and the investment team. So I would bifurcate our technology strategy into 3 buckets. One is on basically improving our client experience. Okay, next week, we'll launch our mobile app, which according to me is going to be the world's best. I've never seen anything as spectacular as this, and the team has spent close to 7 to 8 months on this. In terms of our digital onboarding of clients, in terms of efficient execution of transactions, that's worked wonders for us during the last 6 months. The next is on automation, in terms of we've worked on basically automating a lot of our processes which were manual, routine, mundane. So we've used robotic process automation for automating our routine stuff. We also like identified tasks which can be done in-house and tasks which can be done like by say third-party vendors like a Crystal or a ICRA. And the third is basically, I would say, which we've started work on is analytics in terms of big data, in terms of predictive analysis. We've done some work on using predictive analysis in our decision making. A lot of work needs to start on AI and ML. And among all of this, basically, we've like realized that cybersecurity is going to be extremely important for us. And we are, I would say, like we are the only wealth firm in the country today to be ISO 27001 certified. Okay, there's been like a 500% increase in the cybercrime in India over the last like 3 to 4 months. So that's kept me busy over the last 6 months at Waterfield. And
Right.
That's good to know. Abhin, I think I can ask the next question to you. What is the craziest asset class that you can think will be available in 2030 for us?
You know, every individual will become superpower. So every wealth manager, you are going to be the craziest asset class you have. This is the perfect opportunity that people have to learn. And obviously, Abhishek will say, yes, it's so easy to learn the technology. The fear that people had, you know, the inertia that was there that you cannot learn. It is something like, uh, I have seen CEOs not ready to talk about getting technology, investing in technology. Right now, if I can tell you, the craziest thing, what Karthik was saying, the craziest thing we have done at Bajaj Capital is we have completely overhauled our digital presence. If you visit bajajcapital.com now versus what you could have visited some 4 months back, it was something which is unprecedented. We never thought that we can do it. It's been almost 2.5 years we have not done that, saying it's a long process. But in the times of like these, the craziest thing people do is we have realized that technology can actually be deployed very fast. You just need to get the right partners in place, and the intention has to be right. You know, like the things which Karthik mentioned in the earlier question, that the security is there and the buy-in. Like in our case, we have Mr. Sanjeev Bajaj, who is our MD and, you know, the founder of the company, along with the founder, right, Mr. Bajaj. So what he does is he is playing from the front. He is there in every decisions on the technology we are taking. This was not the case. They were business first. Now the company has become technology first. They say, how does my customer, you know, get the best in class experience? Because the competition is happening with the Instagram. The customer is going to Instagram and expecting. It's so nice to hear from Karthik. We have created the best app, right? This is the top line. Instead of saying, you know, last year probably the top line would be, this is the amount of profit I booked. These are the people I brought in. Today we are saying we have done RPAs. We are doing predictive analysis. In fact, when we were doing a research, we found out that our customers told, or actually the consumers told us, we want to know what kind of relationship managers and advisor will visit us. So we actually created a relationship manager advisor engine, you know, RM engine we have created, which actually predicts from the back end that whether, and it is live, it was done in record time, and our growth in that place has grown up to 169%. Something we have never thought of it, right? So this, the craziest is the opportunity in hand. The time is the craziest technology, and you are the craziest technology actually. What you want to do with this, everything available in a plate, right? Find the right partners, get the right intention there, get the buy-in and implement.
Yeah, I think makes sense. I think the theme is constant with Netflix and Amazon super personalizing everything. I think the theme is going exactly that way, is that consumers will be the biggest focus going forward. All right. I have a question for Abhishek. Abhishek, how many years would it take for consumers to move away from something which is very simple as mutual funds as of now and move to other products like probably insurance or anything of that sort?
I don't feel it's going to take long. We have seen people changing behaviors very shortly. Of course, we have seen people change their behaviors when demonetization.
Abhishek is gone on mute.
Abhishek, you've gone on mute.
Sorry. I realized there was a call which had come. Sorry for that. Yeah, I was saying that the behavior is the consumers are changing their behavior in a very short span. The moment they are getting comfortable with the product, they are more than happy to adopt a new product. So it's not going to be that people have been investing in insurance. People have also now understood that the amount of trust that they lose in insurance investment related products. So they're not going to shy away from mutual funds, I believe, but they are more happy to take on products which may be a little more riskier, but can give high return. They're understanding the risk associated with these products. They are able to absorb and be able to assess if they are capable of taking that risk and they want to go ahead and invest.
Thank you, Abhishek. I think the next question I have is for Karthik. Karthik, with all of these changes that we are seeing, how do you see acquiring talent, hiring people? I see a complete 360-degree change in how we'll do that.
So I'll tell you that talent is the biggest problem in this industry. So I was speaking recently to a headhunter. He said there are only 2,000 wealth managers in this country. And out of these 2,500, there are only 150 wealth managers across all the firms getting revenues of more than 10 crores every year. So the base is very small. It's very difficult to attract these guys because the guys who are well settled, okay, they get $1 million compensation. There's nothing which is going to excite them to move to another firm. So talent is a big problem. A classic example which I would like to give is, so we set up our Cochin office about 5 months back. We've got the relationship manager, but there's no service manager which is available. So through this webinar, if like basically any candidate is interested in joining Waterfield at Cochin, please like send us the resume. It's tough, like it's extremely tough. So one of the things which we did at Waterfield was, so 3 years back, basically we said people who've left their jobs want to come back to work, especially the women employees, okay, who've been successful private bankers. So we've like basically got them back to work, and like that's proved very successful. Today, like most of these people have been like managing, are doing exceptionally good quality work. The other is basically people who've been like analysts or like service managers, okay, and they've done excelled in their job. We've made them junior relationship managers. So over the next 3 to 4 years, they'll be able to like handle clients independently. And the last year we made like basically, we started like campus recruitment. We went to ISB and recruited one like management trainee, and he's having a round with all the like functions for the next 6-7 months. And before he decides whether he'll be a relationship manager or be part of the investment team. So talent is a big problem in this industry. The pool is only like 150 people.
Nimal, just to add on this a little more, that there is also a change which is going to be happening primarily from a tech perspective. Just to supplement what Karthik is saying, from a time where there used to be always a focus on recruiting, sales, and investment, and tech used to be an enablement function. I also believe in over 10 years it's going to be a place where it's actually a tech organization doing wealth management versus a wealth management firm using technology. So the whole philosophy is changing. The amount of investment, as Karthik was highlighting it, I mean, it's lovely to hear even a family office investing so much. I mean, it's like great, right? This shows the amount of commitment the organization has towards technology. So the percentage where it used to lie as almost 1.5 to 2% of your revenues being invested in technology, it's going to go as up as 10 to 12% for all the wealth management firms, similar to what a banking industry stands at in the tech side.
Thank you, Abhishek. I think, I think hiring overall is going to be more and more challenging is what I'm understanding. For the audience, there are a many questions coming in. So I will try to ask each and every question, but pardon me if I'm not able to.
I don't think so. I don't think so. You can ask all questions. I can see 100 questions, almost 100 questions on the screen. You guys have really created a lot of debate in people's head. So let's just take the most interesting ones.
Sure. So one of the interesting ones, I think, Abhin, you can take it. Somebody's asked, to what extent does this virtual interface, we are living in an absolute virtual interface, how will this impact the future of wealth management?
One thing that will happen, because it's 2030 that we are saying and not couple of years or 3 years, right? You will not be able to realize whether it is virtual or real because you are not touching them, right? You are far, you are talking to the best of the brains and they are training you and they are telling you, right? So virtual interface will remain, and you will have access to the best of brains. If I have the ability to pay enough, and if my kit is enough, I can even have Karthik take care of my, portfolio. But for that, I need to have that kind of, money is in my pocket that he is interested to give his return on time, right? So what we typically call as ROTI, return on time invested, is going to be very high for that customer, right? So virtual, we are living virtually, we will continue to live virtually. That's not changing. We will be very happy to do this. So that's where I see. And also one thing that will happen is we all talk about, hiring. We don't talk about training. I see that shift is going to happen big. Your guys who are loyal to you in your company being there, the idea was always replace them with a better lot. But one thing that will change, and for a company like ours with 4,000 plus employees, we are extensively going double down on training. At a minimum level, a wealth manager in a very small place, say, not a name, not call this, say Jagdalpur, right, or a Bilaspur in Chhattisgarh. That person get a basic level of training, can actually do wonders for adding to the small build up. Not a very big chunk at one go, but these small shampoo sachet strategy that we have is going to act a lot for at least for a player like us retail. Yeah.
I have a very interesting question which somewhere touches it. Somebody sent me directly to me and really asking me to answer that. Requesting me to ask that. We can see TV just got unbundled in TikTok and Netflix and everything. I have got everything. The content is shifting very quickly. Lot of wealth industry relies on content and knowledge and sharing a lot of information. What do you think will be 2030 and run up towards 2030 when it comes to content, knowledge, and data, especially on the video side? Do you think that's going to become mainstream?
So if you ask me, I can go. I think you are absolutely right when you say unbundling of TV and escapism has, TV was the escapism from the daily doldrum of life. I used to come back, switch on the TV and live in my fantasy world. That has happened on TikTok now. Escapism is that 15-seconder, 30-seconder slots, right? We all are going to drown in information and seek wisdom. Whoever provides the wisdom in a nuggets, a small micro 15-seconder, 30-seconder, for my specific problem, he is going to win the battle. And then to go deep about knowing from him everything. That's how discovery will happen. So everybody will become a media vehicle of content, and video will be, see, we are doing it on video. This is video content, right?
Absolutely.
So this is exactly how you see 2030. Obviously, the quality will be way better. Quality will be a Hollywood class production system. Because right now I am sitting in a place and not moving. You can just have a camera which actually takes a 360-degree view wherever you walk and create a background image which is transforms me to a place which is the best place, and there will be no difference. So perception of that content, everybody will have same kind of look, but the content, deep content, value of content, like Karthik was mentioning or Abhishek, a specialist will become more valuable. That's what is going to happen through video.
Great. Hemal, you have got more interesting questions. We've got next 2-3 minutes.
I just have 7 minutes, so I'm just going to ask one last question. And it is an interesting one, and it is for Abhin specifically. Abhin, will there be a demographic shift in terms of asset management or wealth management? As we see that currently the percentage of women is very less than men. What do you see? Will there be a shift in demographic there?
See, it is already happening. So if I get the question correctly, if it is about will women become wealth managers more? So that Karthik is obviously leading there. They are doing it, right? So that's happening. Are women better than men? 100%. They are better managers. It's period. There is no question. There is no debate about it. Let's put it across on side. It's just about will they focus on it. I think in this, 3 sets of 3 years, yes, the next wave of women who are coming are very focused. They are ready to talk investment. They are talking alpha returns. There are some great examples who are leading the way. We have great women founders coming in. So men have to work in tandem of realizing, and they will take and help men. Men will be very happy to say, "You please manage the wealth. Let me get the wealth." Right? Because men by default has been hunters, and they will continue to remain hunters. So that's the billion years which has brought us here, and that will not change.
Great. So with 6 minutes remaining, I would just want to ask the final comments of this show and of this webinar. And I'm sure this question must be asked by Soumya, Karan, or Sanjeev to all three of you. This is typically a boardroom question, but we would want to know as an audience, what are the 3 things individually each one of you are betting on today to be prepared for 2030?
Okay, maybe I'll take the dig first on it. So I feel the 3 things which we are taking a bet on is technology, process, and platform. So these are 3 big things that we are taking a bet, and all 3 in last 2, which is process and platform, again get supported by technology. So in a way, it's going to be said, okay, we are taking a bet on technology. So that's the way you look at it. And then there's a huge investment that we are looking at going forward.
So you said technology, processes, and platform. Great insights. Karthik, what about you? You belong to a hyper specialized advisory organization, which is run by one of the smartest women entrepreneurs, Soumya. What's your view? When Soumya talked to you, Karthik, what are your 3 bets? What are you investing beside ValueFi? What are those?
Okay, so for me, basically, Waterfield would like to be an employer of choice. Today, if it's like investment banking, it's Goldman, it's consulting, it's McKinsey, we would like Waterfield to be an employer of choice. Okay, the next is like everyone is working on technology, but you ask all the guys in wealth management, they are burning their midnight oil. So unless I am able to solve the problem of people not working beyond 6 o'clock, okay, I won't be like, if I solve that problem, I think like I've done my job well. So spend money on technology, but make sure that people like wind up their job for the day at 6 o'clock. And the third is basically build brand Waterfield. Okay, I think not many people are aware of it, but today we are the most awarded wealth advisory firm in the country. Like, so those are the 3 things which like I would like to work on over the next 2 to 5 years.
Great. I mean, I always considered Waterfield already to be a big brand, the way it's getting the prizes all over Asia now. So, but you still focus on building the brand. That's a very interesting insight. Solving the problem of employees, that they really have a work-life balance. I mean, I'm seeing it's a music to ears, including me. And employer of choice, I am sure you should succeed there. Abin, what do you think? Some crazy ideas, big bets for 2030.
See, I very clearly am sure that it's not technology. I think it is people, right? Own people, customer as humans, human value of being human will increase multifolds, what Karthik said. I buy that. Being human to your employees, being human to your customer, right? There are times when people are writing on chatbots, are you a human or a bot? Right? And that's it, right? It is so fast that they write this. So one is, I think, people, the human element of it. Second thing I believe is the user experience. There is going to be no brand loyalty, only service loyalty, right? I will shift in a fraction of a second, and shifting will be very easy, right? In 10 years, I'm not saying tomorrow and in 3 years time, when banks will have a single, you can move from bank to bank in a one single click without anything like a number portability, the similar things will start. So that is where the user experience bit and service loyalty will comes. There will be no brand loyalty, only service loyalty. And finally, third thing I want to bet is on profit. Boss, survive the market. then talk about all things. So I think we need to survive with a very good profit, because all the great companies are able to give all these other things, investing in technology, investing in people, making them feel good. When you have that much amount of profit, so generate profits. Three things I think in 10 years where everybody would like to see. I'm saying output. Input will definitely be, you know, all the other things that we are saying. But these are the three things that I see. Plus, be ready for getting disrupted by government. One single change in regulation, a small cap, mid cap, something completely go for a toss. So be ready for anything and everything happening right now. It's very interesting time to be.
Great. People shifting quickly, and the profit, which is fundamental to any business. Great. That great views. I started this whole webinar with a thought process that we'll hear crazy ideas about technology and how technology will just beat humans in any area. But I'm really surprised positively to know that humans and the people are still going to be the heart of this business. I think in this COVID-19 and pandemic, living at home, so we have become more human, and I can see that in this debate or the idea exchange as well. So great, we're just in time. It was a fantastic conversation for me, really insightful. We could not really answer all the questions of our audience, but we would want to come back to our panelists and get some of those answers to get it back. The poll is still in progress, and we really look forward everybody answering that. Thank you, audience. I hope it was an exciting and interesting conversation, and really, really thankful to all my three panelists. Amazing conversation, really interesting and energetic. Thank you, and a lovely evening ahead. Once again, good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.